Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. So, continuing with the discussion on Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila, Chapter 5, the glories of Lord Nityananda Balram. Text 22, we started yesterday. So, continuing with the discussion, it's about Vaikuntha world. Descriptions of the Vaikuntha world. And Prabhupada also talked about the material world. So, carrying on with the purport where we left yesterday. The bestial civilization of eating, sleeping, fearing, and sense gratifying has misled modern man into forgetting how powerful a soul he has. As we have already described, the soul is a spiritual spark, many, many times more illuminating, dazzling, and powerful than the sun, moon, or electricity, because they're all material and soul is spiritual. Human life is spoiled when man does not realize his real identity with the soul. Lord Chaitanya appeared with Lord Nityananda to save man from this type of misleading civilization. So this was the external motive of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu's appearance. Srimad Bhagavatam also describes how yogis can travel to all the planets in the universe. When the vital force is lifted to the cerebellum, there is every chance that this force will burst out from the eyes, nose, ears, etc. As these are places that are known as the seventh orbit of the vital force. But the yogis can block these holes by complete suspension of air. The yogi then concentrates the vital force in the middle position, that is, between the eyebrows. At this position, the yogi can think of the planet to which he wants to go after leaving the body. He can then decide whether he wants to go to the abode of Krishna in the transcendental Vaikunthas, from which he will not be required to descend into the material world, or to travel to higher planets in the material universe. The perfect yogi is at liberty to do either. That's how powerful this yogic process is. But if we come to the complete process of samadhi, complete step of samadhi, for the perfect yogi who has attained success in the method of leaving his body in perfect consciousness, transferring from one planet to another, is as easy as an ordinary man's walking to the grocery store. As already discussed, the material body is just a covering of the spiritual soul. Mind and intelligence are the undercoverings, and the gross body of earth, water, air, and so on is the overcoating of the soul. As such, any advanced soul who has realized himself by the yogic process, who knows the relationship between matter and spirit, can leave the gross dress of the soul in perfect order and as he desires. So any advanced soul, advanced means spiritually advanced, who has realized himself by the yogic process, who knows the relationship between matter and spirit, can leave the gross dress of the soul made of earth, water, fire, air, ether in perfect order and as he desires. And this is what yogis can do. They have shown that. By the grace of God, we have complete freedom. Because the Lord is kind to us, we can live anywhere, either in the spiritual sky or in the material sky, upon whichever planet we desire. However, misuse of this freedom causes one to fall down into the material world and suffer the threefold miseries of conditioned life. So threefold miseries: adibhotik, adhyatmic, adidaivic creation. The living of a miserable life in the material world by dint of soul's choice is nicely illustrated by Milton in Paradise Lost. Similarly, by choice, the soul can regain paradise and return home back to Godhead. It's all up to us. It's the first time I'm reading. I've read it earlier, but I don't remember. Prabhupada quoting Milton in Paradise Lost. At the critical time of death, one can place the vital force between the two eyebrows and decide where he wants to go. If he is reluctant to maintain any connection with the material world, he can, in less than a second, reach the transcendental abode of Vaikuntha and appear there completely in his spiritual body, which will be suitable for him in the spiritual atmosphere. He has simply to desire to leave the material world, both in finer and in grosser forms, and then move the vital force to the topmost part of the skull and leave the body from the hole in the skull called Brahm Randhra. This is easy for one perfect in the practice of yoga. But this practice of yoga is not that easy. One has to really, really practice for hours and hours. Of course, man is endowed with free will, and as such, if he does not want to free himself from the material world, he may enjoy the life of Brahmpada, Brahmpad, occupation of the post of Brahma, and visit Siddhaloka, the planets of materially perfect beings who have full capacities to control gravity, space, and time. To visit these higher planets in the material universe, one need not give up his mind and intelligence, finer matter, but need only give up grosser matter, the material body. In fact, about the yogis, Prabhupada also explained, I guess in Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita, I forgot, that there are yogis who would sit in the forest in doing meditation, tapasya or meditation, and then they would leave that gross body, the soul would leave with the subtle body, and they could go anywhere in this world also, but they would make sure that the gross body is kept safe because they have to come back into the gross body. And they would go anywhere in the world, go do whatever they have to, and then come back into the gross body. That kind of powers are there. Each and every planet has its particular atmosphere, and if one wants to travel to any particular planet within the material universe, one has to adapt his material body to the climatic condition of that planet. So each and every planet has its particular atmosphere, and they have to have the body suitable to live in that particular atmosphere. And that is where our scientists are making a mistake. Think we can go to moon in this body, not possible. For instance, if one wants to go from India to Europe, where the climatic condition is different, one has to change his dress accordingly. We are on the same planet, but it's colder in Europe. So one has to put on those warm clothes. Similarly, a complete change of body is necessary if one wants to go to the transcendental planets of Vaikuntha. However, if one wants to go to the higher material planets, he can keep his finer dress of mind, intelligence, and ego, but has to leave his gross dress body made of earth, water, fire, etc. So that's all it is. So soul remains the same, bodies keep on changing. It depends where we want to go. When one goes to the transcendental planet, spiritual planet, It is necessary to change both the finer and gross bodies, for one has to reach the spiritual sky completely in a spiritual form. This change of dress will take place automatically at the time of death, if one so desires. It's amazing. The Bhagavad Gita confirms that one will attain his next material body according to his desires at the time he leaves his body. The desire of the mind carries a soul to a suitable atmosphere, as the wind carries aromas from one place to another. Unfortunately, those who are not yogis but gross materialists who throughout their lives indulge in sense gratification are puzzled by the disarrangement of the bodily and mental condition at the time of death. So, the gross materialist at the time of death, they're very much puzzled or disturbed. Dhiras tatra namo yati. That's what dhira, those who are sober. But those who are sober means spiritually advanced. They're not disturbed by the death. But those who are not, they get so puzzled, so disturbed, so confused. What happened? How this happened? Well, this is the death, as they say, is as sure as death. This is the ultimate truth of life. Such gross sensualists, encumbered by the main ideas, desires, and associations of the lives they have led, desire something against their interest and thus foolishly take on new bodies that perpetuate their material miseries. So desire something against their interest. The gross materialists, they actually don't know what their real interest is. Nata vidu swartha gatim he Vishnu. They don't know. And they foolishly take on new bodies. And new bodies means new karmas, new associations, new desires, new reactions, everything is there. And it will go on and on and on and on. So systematic training of the mind and intelligence is therefore needed so that at the time of death, one may consciously desire a suitable body, either on this planet or another material planet, or even a transcendental planet. A civilization that does not consider the progressive advancement of the immortal soul merely fosters a bestial life of ignorance. So merely fosters. That's all we've been doing actually. And as human beings, this is our goal, to go above, to go at least to higher planet, or best is to go back to God, back to the spiritual planet. But if we don't work on that, then whatever else we achieve in this life, it's merely wastage of time. Because no matter how much money we make, how much land we have, how many material educational degrees we have, how many followers we have, whatever we have, we're going to leave it here. There'll be people talking about us for some time, but that's about it. And after a while, some new leader, new hero will show up and they'll talk about him. So what's the point? Every day we read, here in the news, or this or that. This is like these days in India. That residence of Kejriwal is in big news. Everybody is discussing about that. Yes, I mean, besides the corruption and whatever nonsense he said and he did, but even if somebody makes a house like that, how long is going to live in that? What's the point? If he doesn't get punished by Indian government, he will get punished by Krishna's laws of nature. But what is the point? Why waste human life being the position of CM of Delhi? Intelligent person, he's intelligent, crooked but intelligent. Why waste such an opportunity? Nobody wants to understand. This is what Maya is. Maya makes us think we can enjoy here, although we cannot. And there's so much of suffering. First, trying to enjoy, and then after leaving whatever we have gathered with so much of hard work and politics and whatever we want to call it, and it will be taken away. It will be so painful. So from beginning to the end, it's always painful. So why waste time, energy on this? It is foolish to think that every soul that passes away goes to the same place. Either the soul goes to a place he desires at the time of death, or upon leaving his body is forced to accept a position according to his acts in his previous life. The difference between the materialist and the yogi is that a materialist cannot determine his next body, whereas a yogi can consciously attain a suitable body for enjoyment in the higher planets. Throughout his life, the gross materialist, who's constantly after sense gratification, spends all day earning his livelihood to maintain his family. And at night, he wastes his energy in sex enjoyment, or else goes to sleep thinking about all he has done in the daytime, or all he is going to do next day. That is a monotonous life of the materialist. Although differently graded as businessmen, lawyers, politicians, professors, judges, coolies, pickpockets, laborers, and so on, materialists are simply engaged in eating, sleeping, fearing, and sense gratification, and thus spoil their valuable lives, pursuing luxury and neglecting to perfect their lives through spiritual realization. So pursuing luxury, that's everybody's doing. Everybody is after this. But the shloka, actually the shloka is Chintamani Prakara Satmashu Kalpa Vriksha, describing that spiritual world, Golok Vrindavan, where everything is made of Chintamani, the touchstone, desire touchstone. And every tree is a desire tree. So, so much of opulence there, unimaginable. And we are after some fleeting opulence or luxury over here in the material. Yogis, however, try to perfect their lives, and therefore the Bhagavad Gita enjoins that everyone should become a yogi. Yoga is a system for linking the soul in the service of the Lord. Only under superior guidance can one practice such yoga in his life without changing his social position. As already described, a yogi can go anywhere he desires without mechanical help, for a yogi can place his mind and intelligence within the air circulating inside his body. And by practicing the art of breath control, he can mix that air with the air that blows all over the universe outside his body. With the help of this universal air, a yogi can travel to any planet and get a body suitable for its atmosphere. We can understand this process by comparing it to the electronic transmission of radio messages. With radio transmitters, sound waves produced at a certain station can travel all over the earth in seconds. But sound is produced from the ethereal sky, and as already explained, subtler than the ethereal sky is the mind, and finer than the mind is the intelligence. Spirit is still finer than the intelligence, and by nature it is completely different from matter. Thus, we can just imagine how quickly the spirit soul can travel through the universal atmosphere. We can only imagine, that's all. We have read about Narad Muni going from one place to another in just like a split second he can go. And Narad Muni is perfect person, a yogi. Of course, he is more than a yogi. To come to the stage of manipulating finer elements like mind, intelligence, and spirit, one needs appropriate training, an appropriate mode of life, and appropriate association. Such training depends upon sincere prayers, devotional service, achievement of success and mystic perfection, and the successful merging of oneself in the activities of the soul and supersoul. A gross materialist, whether he be an empiric philosopher, a scientist, a psychologist, or whatever, cannot attain such success through blunt efforts and word jugglery. Of course, these days, the materialists are the ones who attract most of the people. They don't want to become yogis. They say, it's out of fashion. They don't understand the powers of the yogis. Materialists who perform yagyas or great sacrifices are comparatively better than gross materialists who do not know anything beyond laboratories and test tubes. So Karamkandis are better than just karmis. The advanced materialists who perform such sacrifices can reach the planet called Vaishvanar, a fiery planet similar to the sun. On this planet, which is situated on the way to Brahmaloka, the topmost planet in the universe, such an advanced materialist can free himself from all traces of vice and its effects. When such a materialist is purified, he can rise to the orbit of the pole star Dhruvaloka. Within this orbit, which is called Shishumar Chakra, are situated the Aditya Lokas and the Vaikuntha planet within this universe. So he can make further advancement. A purified materialist who has performed many sacrifices, undergone severe penances, and given the major portion of his wealth in charity can reach such planets as Dhruvaloka. And if he becomes still more qualified there, he can penetrate still higher orbits and pass through the navel of the universe to reach the planet Maharloka, where sages like Bhrigu Muni live. In Maharloka, one can live even to the time of partial annihilation of the universe. This annihilation begins when Anantadev, from the lowest position in the universe, produces a great blazing fire. The heat of this fire reaches even Maharloka, and then the residents of Maharloka travel to Brahmaloka, which exists for twice the duration of Parartha time. So this happens, partial annihilation happens at the evening or night of Brahmaji. Every day of Brahmaji, this partial annihilation takes place. In Brahmaloka, there is an unlimited number of airplanes that are controlled not by yantra or machine, but by mantra, psychic action. Because of the existence of the mind and intelligence on Brahmaloka, its residents have feelings of happiness and distress. But there is no cause of lamentation from old age, disease, fear, or distress. They feel sympathy, however, for the suffering living beings who are consumed in the fire of annihilation. The residents of Brahmaloka do not have gross material bodies to change at death, but they transform the subtle bodies into spiritual bodies and thus enter the spiritual sky. The residents of Brahmaloka can attain perfection in three different ways. Virtuous persons who reach Brahmaloka by dint of their pious work become masters of various planets after the resurrection of Brahma. Those who have worshipped Garbhodaksha Vishnu are liberated with Brahma, and those who are pure devotees of the personality of Godhead at once push through the covering of the universe and enter the spiritual sky. So from Brahmaloka, to three kinds of attainments one can have. Either become masters of various planets after the resurrection of Brahma. So somebody is interested in that, he can do that. And those who have worshipped Garbhodaksha Vishnu are liberated with Brahma. But here Brahma, Prabhupada is saying he will get liberated because this Brahman of our universe, as Prabhupada said, he is a pure devotee, like from the work he has produced as Brahma Samhita. But there are Brahmas who don't get liberated. He develops material desires and he comes down. The numberless universes exist together in foam-like clusters, and so only some of them are surrounded by the water of the causal ocean. When agitated by the glands of Karanadaksha Vishnu, material nature produces the total elements, which are 8 in number and which gradually evolve from finer to gross. So 8 in number: earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, false ego. A part of the ego is the sky, a part of which is air, a part of which is fire, a part of which is water, a part of ego is earth. Thus, one universe inflates to an area of 4 billion miles in diameter. This is our universe, the smallest one. A yogi who desires gradual liberation must penetrate all the different coverings of the universe, including the subtle coverings of the 3 qualitative modes of material nature. One who does this never has to return to this mortal world. According to Shukdev Goswami, the above description of the material and spiritual skies is neither imaginary nor utopian. The actual facts are recorded in the Vedic hymns, and Lord Vasudeva disclosed them to Lord Brahma when Brahma satisfied him. One can achieve the perfection of life only when he has a definite idea of Vaikuntha and the Supreme Godhead. One should always think about and describe the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for this is recommended in both the Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavad Purana, which are 2 authorized commentaries upon the Vedas. The Lord Chaitanya has made all these subject matters easier for the fallen people of this age to accept, and Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita has therefore presented them for the easy understanding of all concerned. I just wanted to complete this purport today. So, wonderful description and a wonderful description of yogis, how they can make advancement, how can they go wherever they want to after they leave the body. But the devotees, obviously, they come in a different category. That Prabhupada will describe later. So I guess we can stop here. See anybody has any questions or comments?
मुझे योगीज को कितना हार्डवर्क करना पड़ेगा इन सब चीजों के लिए.
Oh yeah.
मैं तो यही सोच रहा हूँ कितनी मेहनत है.
So with the Kali Yuga, it's not possible in Kali Yuga.
नहीं पॉसिबल, बट मुझे पिछले युग में भी कितना मतलब मेहनत तो करना पड़ता है ना. ये सब इतना अचीवेबल इज नॉट दैट इजी.
They would, like in Satyuga, they would go for tapasya was 50,000-60,000 years. But Kali Yuga is definitely, we are very fortunate just by chanting 16 rounds every day.
वो भी नहीं होता प्रभु जी.
अब वो बात
बेकार लोग हैं, इतने बेकार है ना हम लोग. मतलब मैं तो बहुत ही बेकार उसमें बिल्कुल नहीं होता.
उसमें भी डिस्काउंट चाहिए.
हाँ बिल्कुल. 2-4 ही हो जाए बस बहुत, ऐसा लगता है बड़ा अचीवमेंट है. सैड है, मेरी सिचुएशन और खराब है.
Chalo, you all have a safe and wonderful day.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare